another great episode. I have Ryan here from CONEXUS, Indiana. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan. Why don't you, tell about your role and how I'm sure you are connecting with a lot of manufacturing companies. What are you learning and share with some of those details.
Yeah. Thank you, Ganesh. Appreciate the time to be on your podcast. I'm definitely excited to dig into a few topic areas with you today. So I'm Ryan Henderson, Director of Innovation and Digital Transformation at CONEXUS, Indiana. Really, our focus at CONEXUS is to develop and grow Indiana's manufacturing and logistics industries. And we do that by connecting companies and the public sector, as well as the academic thought leaders as well, to really collaborate and help grow the ecosystem in Indiana.
Awesome. You said innovation and digital transformation. Wow, that those two are definitely needed. That too, we are talking that in Indiana and in manufacturing. How about that, right? So that's super cool. Maybe 10 years back, we may not have imagined that. It's super cool to hear that. So, what is innovation and what is digital transformation for you and for your sector of contacts you have? What's that mean?
Yeah, no, so that's right. So, in sort of the space of manufacturing and logistics, most people think about innovation and digital transformation through this lens of Industry 4.0.
Okay.
And that's kind of synonymous with these days. There's so many terms for it: connected factory, factory of the future, smart manufacturing, and digital manufacturing. Those terms, they've just all kind of morphed into one. But we go with Industry 4.0. And really, what that is just an onset of all these new technologies. So cobots, IoT, big data and analytics, advanced robotics, drones, and autonomous mobile robots. There's really a gambit of just half a dozen or even 24 technology categories that fall into there. And my role at CONEXUS is how do we help Indiana manufacturing and logistic companies lean into those, accelerate the fourth industrial revolution.
Got it. So now I think you are in a critical role where you are connecting to Indiana companies to tell them that what is happening in the industry and what they need to do, maybe what they are doing best or what they can do better, right? So for that, I am sure you are listening, reading, or talking to a lot of global manufacturing companies beyond Indiana. So why don't we start with a little bit global view? Tell us, what are you hearing from the leaders, even from outside Indiana? Then let's come inside. Like, what are we hearing in Indiana?
Yeah. So it's a good place to start. Big picture trends. And of course, as you get to the higher level, it gets harder and harder to narrow down into the nuance. So I think at the highest level, really, you've got Industry 4.0 and automation. So it's becoming more pervasive at these companies. A lot are leaning into it, whether that's budgets for technology adoption, strategic roadmaps, so what's next in our digital transformation journey, and then dedicated teams and leaders. So companies are appointing a director of Industry 4.0 to actually execute what's next in their plans. And then you have some of the sustainability and ESG trends coming into that. So you have Securities and Exchange Commission just announced an enhancement of the climate disclosures and financial reporting. So that's definitely going to impact the industry. And sort of anecdotally, I know through an analytics platform that we use at CONEXUS called Lightcast, manufacturing and logistics companies are actually hiring the most sustainability roles of any other sector. Yeah, so it's impressive. It's more than the professional services industry. So the Deloittes, the Ernst & Youngs of the world, they're actually outpacing them in dedicated sustainability positions. So there's that. Then you've got this hard tech entrepreneurship piece. And what I mean by hard tech is the combination of manufactured components and software. And Industry 4.0 technologies and startups fall into the kind of hard tech category as well. But it's actually pretty significant. If you think in terms of Indiana, hard tech investment was actually the fourth largest venture investment category for the state.
Oh, wow.
In terms of dollars invested. So it's significant, and it makes sense because Indiana has traditionally been a leader in manufacturing. So it makes sense leveraging that infrastructure. And then I think the other big trend is just electrification and electric vehicles.
Sure.
And we all kind of know what that means, but in terms of Indiana, it's just how do we help companies get prepared for that transition?
So, in your view, comparing the global companies and Indiana companies, and in the context of the Industry 4.0 and the digital transformation, where are we in our journey? Are we just getting started, or kind of in a mature state? Are we in between? Where do you rate us?
Yeah, let me get to that just after I kind of hit why it's important for Indiana.
Yeah,
so we have some fun facts that we use at CONEXUS, but they're significant. So manufacturing and logistics provide 1 in 4 private jobs in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
So that's over 600,000 jobs and Hoosiers employed in manufacturing and logistics. Indiana is the most manufacturing intense state. So manufacturing is more important to the state of Indiana than tourism is to Hawaii. So it's a significant economy, and we rely on it here in Indiana. There's also over 1,500 small to medium and large manufacturing and logistics companies. So there's just a huge volume of companies, and most of them are small, legacy, so they've been around for a long time, and then sort of family owned or within that generation. And then just to get to the second piece of your question, where are Indiana companies?
Yeah.
So we've been tracking this for the last 3 years. We partner with IU Kelley School of Business Center for Excellence in Manufacturing to do research. And I would say kind of at the highest level, companies are further along than you might think in certain technologies. So I mentioned those categories earlier, cobots, 3D printing, robotics, IoT. Those are some that are a little bit further along in terms of adoption. And then there's like augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous mobile robots, big data and analytics. Sure. Those are sort of just coming online now. So it depends what technology you're talking about, where companies are.
So now connecting the dots between the Indiana companies, where they are, and CONEXUS Indiana. So what kind of help or engagement you have with these manufacturing and logistics companies to maybe, help them get to the next level?
Yes. So there's a few things that we're focused on, and you're already involved with one. So we have an Advanced Industries Council. So we regularly convene manufacturing and logistics companies, power of the network, go through, what workforce challenges are you facing? What technology challenges are you facing? Getting folks connected to solve some of those problems, and bringing in some of the public sector and academic partners too. Then we have a team that's focused on workforce as well. And they're really, one of their big audacious goals is how to stop some of the workforce leakage. So Indiana's labor participation rate is at about 62%.
Okay.
Definitely need to get that up, and we've sort of set a goal for ourselves to get that to about 65%. So we're talking about thousands of more positions. In terms of technology adoption, the work that I have the most influence on, I would say one of the biggest things that we've been working on is with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. So we have a program called the Manufacturing Readiness Grants, and we've actually given out over 380 awards, totaling $39 million to companies to adopt all these technologies.
Wow.
So 3D printing, robotics, cobots, machine vision, IoT. We've been funding all of that, helping companies just kind of take their first step in that digital transformation journey.
Wow. So you are bringing ideas from the global, and you are also funding it a little bit so they can get started.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean that's the state. So this is the IEDC
Yeah, sure.
program, and they're invested in it. They know how important manufacturing and
Oh,
logistics is.
absolutely.
So I think the consensus there is let's lean in even more and strengthen those industries.
See, that summarizes the 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 criticality or the importance of that Industry 4.0 and the the reason why we need to bring those kind of technologies to Indiana companies. Now, is it because of pandemic? Is that pandemic changed? What's the impact of pandemic in Indiana companies, and what's the relevance to your the digital 4.0 type
Yeah,
industry 4.0?
yeah. There's certainly been a lot of pandemic impacts. There's no doubt. In terms of workforce, um, there was a big loss of women in the workforce over that time, right? So a lot of women left the workforce in 2020, which was actually at its peak. So in 2020, there was never more women in the advanced industries. But then, unfortunately, the pandemic affected progress there. There's also been a big retirement. So the workforce over 55 years of age starting to retire. And you always hear about some of the unfilled positions, right? A lot of companies are struggling to fill roles, and there are still those challenges today. We've got some research on that, kind of estimating anywhere between 30,000 and 80,000 unfilled roles in manufacturing and logistics, which costs the state a lot of money. So not filling those roles means lost corporate taxes and payroll taxes and income taxes. In terms of technology adoption, pandemic has definitely impacted that too. So cost reduction is something that we've seen really, companies have really put a fine point on that. So in our own research with IU, we've seen that increase from about 40% of companies saying that they're doing Industry 4.0 projects to reduce costs to about 80% in 2022. And then another one is digitization of processes and production. That's increased from about 30% in 2020 to 50% in 2022. So those are the two big movers, and we're seeing a lot of the technology fill those like objectives.
Yeah, that's what we hear from our customers too. Like, I think companies realize that now in this world we should be able to run and operate. Salespeople need to sell without going and meeting in person.
Yeah.
And the product demo need to be done without taking the product and show anywhere, right? So it's lesser feel and touch, it's more show. That means a lot more connected ecosystem, connected equipments, connected. So yeah, the digital is really playing great job on that. So now you kind of put different projects from the robots to connected ecosystems and autonomous, all that. Now all these need one thing common: data. I think that's where a company like CONEXUS coming in. We are providing the data analytics using AI system. Right? Data is very critical. I want to hear from you. And what are you hearing from Indiana companies, manufacturing, logistics companies? What are they thinking about the data and analytics, and what are the areas where they are not able to solve or yet to solve it?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I should have highlighted that kind of in the Industry 4.0 definition. Kind of there's an automation piece to it, and all these emerging technologies, but then the other fundamental piece is the data-driven insights, collecting data on the shop floor, and then using those to make more sales or be more efficient. So you're absolutely right on that. In terms of data and analytics in Indiana, so based on the research report that we did in 2020 with IU, about 1 in 4 companies have adopted big data and analytics that have done an Industry 4.0 project. Okay. So there are a lot of companies that haven't done their first one, and we don't exactly know what that looks like. But of the companies that have, it's about 1 in 4. And then we ask a question in that research and survey. We ask, so how are you using it? If you've implemented it, how are you actually using it? And then really what we hear from companies is they've adopted it, but they're kind of trying to figure out the right use case. So there's so many options that they can deploy it, whether it's safety, whether it's production on the shop floor, whether it's kind of front house, like business operations.
Sure.
How do we deploy that first use case for the big data and analytics project?
Where to start?
Where to start, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, we ask a follow-up question after that, and we say, so what are some of the barriers to adoption? And lack of internal knowledge, integration with legacy systems, and then data collection from machines in the shop floor are the top three kind of prohibiting companies from deploying it.
Perfect. So I think year back, we had a webinar type along with Purdue, and we were talking to a lot of manufacturing companies. One thing I was so surprised to hear was like a lot of mid-sized companies felt they don't have the resources to get into it. They felt it's for big companies and you need probably millions of dollars to get to that. I think that's changing now. I can already see, even within our customer base, in ConverSite customer base, like we have companies who are like $20 million, $30 million businesses where they don't have a data lake or a data warehouse or a data scientist. Without any of that, they're able to get into an AI system which can give them insights and all those. So I think the cloud adoption and the lot more SaaS products, software as a service products, are making that dream true. I was working with a company, they're a $50 million company. Like when he saw the product, he said, Ganesh, he always wanted to do something, and his customer used to be like a 2 billion, 3 billion company. They have a cool solution. He always wanted to have that, but it's not possible. Now, these AI systems are making them a lot more powerful. They're like, I'm going to show this mobile app to my customer. Now then look at how niche or cool we have. What I really felt is the power these technologies could bring to these mid-market companies without waiting for years or without they wait for that growth or hire a data scientist. The AI and analytics could change even their own confidence. The rest of the other benefits will come, but their own confidence when their sales teams have sophisticated system, they're going to feel good about it. So where do you think, now you said 25% of the companies have started. We did a podcast in our prior episode. We laid out a journey on what you need to do to get started. And to me, I'm a big ROI guy. Like, what is the return on investment? It's not like we just want all the 100% of the companies just go do it just because everybody else is doing this. What is the expected outcome? Is it revenue? Is it your bottom optimization on your cost side, or it's customer satisfaction? What is that it's going to do for you? And identifying that use case and implementing it with the right technology and all that. So we went through a journey. I think it's a 3 podcast probably. What, in your view, what will take this 25% to 50%? What companies needs to do from that standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I have a few thoughts to that, which is, you're right. The small to medium companies are the ones that have the biggest challenge for the adoption, right? They don't have dedicated IT teams. They don't have data scientists. Some of the larger companies do have those resources. I think definitely use case development and then seeing success from other manufacturers. It's almost like a word of mouth type thing. It's just once one manufacturer has a successful project and it's kind of shared in the community and it gets around, then others may kind of hear that and gain some interest and maybe the two plant managers will talk to each other, and they may lean into it more. So I think telling the story, especially CONEXUS, we need to tell more of those big data and analytics success stories. The other thing that we hear, which is just, it's no surprise, the budget issue, right?
Yeah.
So, and we have the manufacturing readiness grants program there as an incentive, but it wasn't there before. So hopefully companies look at that as an opportunity to deploy some of the hardware and then lay on those software solutions to start doing some of this big data and analytics.
Is the resource a problem? Do you see that as a problem for hiring data analysts, data scientists? Is that one of the challenge why they are not adapting?
Yes. I mean, yes, it's here. I mean, 50% of companies report that, just lack of internal knowledge, not knowing where to get started. Probably that they're not quite sure who on their team could kind of be the internal champion to oversee and execute a project like that. So I think certainly workforce restricts a project like that. If I take another technology which has had some success, 3D printing is the top technology that's been adopted by Indiana manufacturing companies. There's kind of that ecosystem built around it already. There are some use cases. There are definitely success stories. A lot of companies in the manufacturing readiness grants program have used funding to deploy 3D printers. So you kind of got the pieces that you need to start seeing success there.
Awesome. So in terms of, I know you are bringing that knowledge and a little bit of funding. Are you doing something to bridge that resource gap? Is that training programs? What kind of, I'm sure, I think you also mentioned about study with IU, but what else are you doing to bring or retain that talent here in Indiana?
Yes. So one thing that comes to mind is, I mean, a lot of the universities in Indiana have programs. Ivy Tech comes to mind. They have a smart manufacturing and integration program. And that program is kind of focused around IoT and robotics, technicians and engineering. So there are definitely opportunities, whether or not companies see that as an easy route, if they don't have the right use case, and they don't have the budget, and they're not sure exactly who in the company can kind of be that internal champion. I'm not sure it gets them over that hump. But it's certainly Indiana's universities are looking at this and starting to develop programs around all of this manufacturing and IoT.
Absolutely. So now we are kind of out of pandemic. Life seems to be normal now. But now suddenly we are hearing about this macro economy and a little bit slowness. Do you see the digital adoption transformations programs slowing down or accelerating to cut the cost? Where do you see Indiana companies will do in the next year?
I think it's accelerating. We certainly have some data to support that. More companies have dedicated technology adoption budgets. More companies have strategic roadmaps. More companies have dedicated leaders and teams to execute these projects. And then a lot of companies tell us that they expect to implement a handful of these technologies in the next 5 years. So cobots and cybersecurity and sensor technology, Internet of Things, they're all seeing big jumps in terms of we're going to look at this seriously in the next 5 years. And having a budget and a dedicated team certainly means they're preparing to take that on.
Now let's talk about AI briefly. The AI as a term, obviously to do AI you need data and analytics, got it? Now AI, the moment we think about AI, what is the perception? Is it companies thinking it's going to help, or is it cutting job? What is the perception?
That's a great question. We do look at that. It's certainly lower than big data and analytics. And machine learning pops up sort of in the list. I think it's at about 15% of companies that have undertaken an Industry 4.0 project. And the AI, I think there's some confusion between the machine learning and AI, right? Folks aren't quite sure exactly what constitutes as a kind of dividing line between those two projects. And there's definitely, you hear the narrative that AI is going to take away jobs and some of that, but that's not something that companies share. They definitely look at these technologies, machine learning, AI, as augmenting the workforce.
Yeah.
And in fact, making themselves more competitive. Yes. And then growing wages and jobs and landing new business just because they're more efficient and more competitive.
Yeah, I think you brought a good point. The confusion between machine learning and AI. My CTO used to always say that when he hear, AI as a technology, he'll say, like, AI is not a technology. It's an outcome of machine learning, obviously. If the machine can learn the way we do, humans do a job, and it can start performing or automating that or augmenting, as you mentioned, that's AI, right? So it could be in any form, but obviously when we call something as an AI, it's a machine learning behind the scene. And that for that, you need a lot of data. So the data and that machine learning programs and bring that repetition and bring that automation from a day-to-day process perspective. Especially like what we are seeing in supply chain, especially companies who are 2 years back, they were struggling with, I don't have stock, I don't have materials, I can't deliver, I'm missing on time delivery. Today, when I go talk to the companies, we may have too much of inventory because the interest rates are high. Is there a way I can optimize the inventory? So now we are in a time where it's changing. Like year back, the strategy is changing to what I need to do today. So that's where the machine learning or the outcome, the AI, could come and help, can recommend how much you need to buy or how much you need to build, do a little bit forecasting without spending a lot of time and energy. One thing through you, if we can talk to the mid-market manufacturing and logistics companies, it's no longer a $1 million project. And AI doesn't mean it's complex. AI doesn't mean they need a lot of resources. There are a lot of smart companies, startup companies in this ecosystem in Indiana, outside Indiana. Every day they are thinking about how do we, bring these AI to get more higher visibility in supply chain and recommendations on how much to build, what to buy, and what's going to happen, right? Kind of a forecast. I think, in my view, clarifying and clearing some of that you don't need army of people, you don't need millions of dollars, and you can always start with a small fund through IUTC, for example. That could take us a long way. What does your next 1 year plan look like? What's 2023 for you?
Yeah, more of the readiness grants. So we continue to see just a great deal of volume, big appetite from manufacturing companies and technology adoption. I think at this point we've crossed over the 500 application mark. Wow. So that's it's over 5% of Indiana manufacturers. So we've hit quite a few at this point. Certainly try to, as I mentioned earlier, figure out how to leverage Indiana's manufacturing leadership and dominance and help kind of the creation and growth of hard tech companies, just because there's such a wealth of expertise and robust infrastructure to support them. And then I think the one thing at CONEXUS that we're really trying to hone in on is how to activate the supply side, so the sites, right? So we have a program that helps the technology adopters lean into it, get some funding to support them in their journey. But we don't have a mechanism quite yet that really helps the supply side of the technology
Sure.
builders and integrators and providers. So we really want to figure out how can we pull in companies like Conversite into the conversation and engage you and kind of work together to keep accelerating this technology adoption in Indiana.
Absolutely. I think, it's no longer just the company and their technology leader thinking about their innovation. You are thinking about their innovation too. That's so exciting. What motivates you every day? I think it's a great job what you're doing, not just one organization. It's not just to make a profit for a company, for doing something every day for the community. It's not an easy job. So what motivates you?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm motivated by my studies. So I have
Sure.
a master's degree in sustainability and economic development fits in there, sustainable development. So I had already an interest in my younger life, but it's challenging work. Like these are big problems
Yeah.
to solve. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of collaboration and partnerships. And I think that's really what drives me in this role. It's figuring all that out. It keeps you on your toes every day.
Well, I'm sure like any day when I see that, oh, there's a company moving to Indiana or they're expanding, they're building something in, here, wow, that's like, that's a great news. And every day when I'm driving I-65, I see the number of new buildings coming in, like in terms of the warehouses, in terms of new facilities. It's great to see in the last couple of years how much new constructions happening and so exciting to see. And thank you. And you are probably part of that growth, what we are all seeing and envisioning and enjoying. So thank you, CONEXUS and Ryan, personally you. Thank you for keeping Indiana up to date on the technology innovation and helping us a little bit funding and being with us in their journey, in our journey of digital transformation. Great to have you in our podcast and looking forward to a partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Appreciate it.